SSLC Social Science, Chapter 5, Culture and Nationalism, Notes. What is the solid foundation of India as a nation? Unity in diversity. What is nationalism? Nationalism is the sense of unity that exists among the people of a nation irrespective of caste, creed, region and religion. Mention the various socio-cultural factors that reinforced nationalism in India. Social reform movements, the press, education, literature, art. Mention the two types of protest in ideological and cultural spheres that the 19th century India witnessed. Protest against inequality, violations of rights and social evils which existed in the Indian society. Protest against the economic exploitations of the colonial forces. Complete the table. Institution, founder. Asiatic Society of Bengal, William Jones. Calcutta Madrasa, Warren Hastings. Banaras Sanskrit College, Jonathan Duncan. Why did the British founded several institutions in India? They established several institutions to study more about India, to interfere in Indian education system and to train their own officers. Why did the British start English education in India? To ensure commercial growth, the British thinkers who favored free trade argued for strong British intervention in the Indian society. But it was not possible to bring about reforms without popular support. They wanted to prepare a generation that favors English lifestyles. Hence, they started English education to nurture a fraction of Indian society that would support Britain. Did the British rule lead to the growth of Indian nationalism? Evaluate. The British rule led to the growth of Indian nationalism. The education imparted by British is an example. By the 19th century, English culture and ideologies began to intrude into Indian society. Some Indian leaders found it necessary to resist this cultural invasion. Most of them were English-educated Indians who internalized the concepts like democracy, liberty, rationalism, equality, scientific temper, socialism, civil rights, etc. They ventured to reform the social customs and rituals prevailed in the country, thereby to defend the invasion of English culture. They tried to reform Indian society, language, art and literature. It motivated to protest against inequalities and violation of rights and created a sense of unity among the people. This led to the growth of nationalism in India. List out two main objectives of various social reform movements emerged in the 19th century India. To eradicate evils and superstitions that existed in the Indian society. To ensure equal civil rights to education, travel and dress code. Mention the proposals that the social reformers advanced to bring about fundamental changes in the society. Eradicate caste system. Protect the rights of all. Eliminate discrimination against women. Provide education to all, promote widow remarriage, abolish child marriage and eliminate the supremacy of the clergy. Raja Ram Mohan Roy was behind the modernization of Indian society. Evaluate the statement. Raja Ram Mohan Roy was the pioneer among the social reformers who strived for the modernization of Indian society. He opposed the caste system and sati. Social evils prevailed in the Indian society and established the Brahma Samaj in Bengal. He propagated the idea of a unified Indian society in the place of a society fragmented over caste lines. This idea prompted patriotism among the people. Thus, the concept of a unified nation became one of the objectives of social reform. To improve the status of women, he advocated for the right of women to own property. Complete the table. Movements, reformer ideologies. Arya Samaj, Swami Dayanand Saraswati, campaigned against idol worship and child marriage. Ramakrishna Mission, Swami Vivekananda, opposed the caste system and social evils, propagated the concepts of liberty, equality, freedom of thought. Aligarh movement, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, advocated for social and educational uplift Indian Muslims. Prarthana Samaj, Atmaram Pandurang, campaigned for interdining, intercaste marriage, widow remarriage and the uplift of women and backward classes. Theosophical Society, Annie Besant, the resurgence of Hindu religion. Hitakarani Samaj, Veeresh Lingam, campaigned for widow remarriage and women education. Satya Shodak Samaj, Jyotiba Phule, opposed social evils and started educational institutions for backward classes, opposed the domination of priests. Self-respect movement, E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar, opposed Brahmanical supremacy and caste system. Sri Narayana Dharma Paripalana Yogam, Sri Narayana Guru, opposed the caste system and evil practices, advocated for social and economic progress of the backward classes. Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, remarriage of widows, educational institutions for women education. The British government passed the Hindu Widow Remarriage Act in 1856 due to the activities of Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Pandit Ramabhai Sharada Sadan in Bombay, women education. As a result of the activities of the social reformers and their movements, the British were forced to abolish many social evils that existed in various parts of the country. Mentioned the legislations abolishing the social evils. Prevented marriage of girls below 12 years of age. Prevented child marriage and polygamy. Abolished slavery. Banned female infanticide. Abolished sati. Permitted widow remarriage. Examined the role of newspapers in making people aware of exploitation and violation of rights they faced. The newspapers have a major role in unifying the people of a country. Evaluate the significance of this statement in Indian context. The newspapers disseminated information on massacres, oppression and repressive rule in various parts of the country. Motivated the people to protest against the British rule and evils in Indian society. Created public awareness on economic exploitation by the British. Popularized reformative movements against social evil and superstitions. Kept abreast of the global agitations for freedom, democracy and equality. Reported the calamities like plague and famines that killed thousands of Indians in various regions. Indian leaders mostly depended on newspapers to propagate their nationalistic ideologies. They considered journalism as a social service. Their newspapers criticized the British policies and motivated national movement. Complete the table. Major newspapers during the freedom struggle. Leaders. The Hindu, Swadeshi Mitram, G. Subramanya Iyer. Amrit Basar Patriga, Shishir Kumar Ghosh, Motilal Ghosh. Bombay Samachar, Firdorji Marsban. Kesari Maratha, Bal Gangadhara Tilak. Bengali, Surendranath Banerjee, Voice of India, Dadabhai Navroji, Shom Prakash, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, New India, Commonweal, Annie Besant, Young India, Harijan, Mahatma Gandhi, Al-Hilal, Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad, Vande Madaram, Lala Lajpat Rai, Nation, Gopalakrishna Gokhale. Find out the names of Malayalam newspapers published during the time of independence movement and list them. Madhrubhumi, Malayala Manorama, Swadeshabhimani, Al-Amin, Deenabandhu, Sahodaran. Briefly evaluate the role of Raja Ram Mohan Roy in the history of press in the freedom movement. Raja Ram Mohan Roy was the first to start newspaper with a national perspective. His Sammad Kaumudi in Bengali and Miratul Akbar in Persian focused on social reformation, democracy and nationalism. Following his path, many reformers and national leaders published newspapers in regional languages. Realizing the power of the press, the British imposed stringent measures to control them. Evaluate the statement. The Vernacular Press Act enacted by Lord Lytton in 1878 implemented to control the power of the press. It curbed freedom of press in regional languages. The British withdrew the act after a massive protest. How did the advancement in education help nurture Indian nationalism? Or evaluate how changes in education influenced the emergence of Indian nationalism. The social reformers considered education as a necessity to bring about changes in society and to maintain unity, that education was inevitable in the socio-economic and cultural progress of the country. Establishing national educational institutions was the main means adopted for inculcating nationalism. They imparted secular education to all sections of the society. The Deccan Education Society, founded in 1884 in Pune by G.G. Agarkar, Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Mahadev Govind Ranade, was one of such educational institutions established with a nationalistic perspective. The Swadeshi movement, which started after the partition of Bengal in 1905, influenced to found many educational institutions for the propagation of national education. Their major objectives were promotion of nationalism, opposition to social evils, and rejection of Western education. D.K. Karve started the first Indian Women University in Maharashtra in 1916 for women empowerment. Vishwabharati, the university founded by Rabindranath Tagore in Bengal, focused on universal brotherhood and aimed at a system of education that would bridge Western and Eastern cultures. Maulana Muhammad Ali, Shaukat Ali, Dr. Zakir Hussain and M.A. Ansari founded the Jamia Millia Islamia in Aligarh to strengthen national movement through secular education. Kerala Kalamandalam in the Cheruduruthi village of Thrissur, founded by Mahakavi Vallathol Narayana Menon, was established to defend the cultural invasion and promote traditional art. Mahatma Gandhi started Vartha education plan for vocational training during education to defend the British. Following are some ideas envisioned in national education. Read carefully. List the institutions that worked for materializing these ideas. Ideas of national education institution. Secularism and nationalism. The Deccan Education Society, Jamia Millia Islamia, Vartha education plan. Women empowerment, Indian Women University in Maharashtra. Internationalism, Vishwabharati. Revival of traditional art, Kerala Kalamandalam. Protest against foreign rule and caste system, Vartha education plan. Evaluate the role of Gandhiji in the education system of India during freedom struggle. In 1937, Mahatma Gandhi proposed a special education plan. This is called Vartha education plan. Its major objective was vocational education. He thought that vocational training during education would help build up a good future. Gandhiji believed that such a generation could defend the British. Nai Talim. Gandhiji proposed that education should be related to some productive occupation. He recommended free and compulsory education in mother tongue for all children between 8 and 14 years. This perspective of education is known as Nai Talim, New Education. In 1937, the Vartha Conference of the Indian National Congress appointed a committee headed by Dr. Zakir Hussain to study the system of education. How did literature in various languages motivate Indian nationalism? Discuss. The protest against the British rule as well as social evils existed in the Indian society reflected in Indian literature. Writers in various parts of India illustrated the agonies and atrocities faced by the people. The readers in other parts experienced these sorrows as theirs and ventured to fight them collectively. Writers shared the resentment with the people through poetry, tales, novel, drama, etc. This developed among the people a sense of patriotism and dissent towards the foreign dominance. Patriotic songs in regional languages bridged the gap between the upper class literates and the illiterate mass. The concept of Bharat Mata was first presented in public through a play written by Shishir Kumar Ghosh and Satyendranath Tagore. Anandamad, written by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, based on Sannyasi revolt of Bengali peasants, illustrate the agonies of Bengali farmers and disparity between rich and poor in the Bengali society. The song Bande Mataram is taken from this novel. Neel Darpan, a play written by the Bengali writer Dinabandhu Mitra, depicted the severe exploitation suffered by the indigo farmers in Bengal. This play triggered farmers' unrest in various parts of the country. Urdu poet Allama Muhammad Iqbal, who penned the famous patriotic song Sare Jaham Se Acha, Hindustan Hamara, praised the beauty of India's nature and unity of its people. Thus, the creative expression of Indian writers helped to inculcate the concept of a unified India among the public. Complete the table. Works, authors, languages. Khora Gitanjali, Rabindranath Tagore, Bengali. Seva Sadan, Premasram, Rangabhumi, Godan, Premchand, Hindi. Panjali Shabadam, Kalippaattu, Kannanpaattu, Kuyilpaattu, Subramaniam Bharati, Tamil. Hayati Sahi, Hayati Javid, Altaf Hussain Hali, Urdu. Dibandhamala, Vishnu Krishna Chiplangar, Marathi. Ende Gurunathan, Bapuji, Indiyude Karachil, Vallathol Narayana Menon, Malayalam. What was the role of art in Indian nationalism? Abanindranath Tagore depicted Bharat Mata giving food, cloth and knowledge to Indian masses. This painting helped to inculcate patriotism in Indian minds. He started Indian Society of Oriental Arts in Calcutta to free Indian painting from Western style and to promote Oriental painting based on Indian culture and tradition. Raja Ravivarma from Kerala visualized the various scenes from Indian epics and literature. Nandalal Bose, another artist, portrayed scenes from Indian literature and events in history. Through his paintings like Sadi, he stimulated the Indians to protest against this social evil. His painting Village Drummer was exhibited in the Haripura session of the Indian National Congress in 1938 and was adopted as the picture for the poster of the Congress. Amrita Shergill, a famous women artist of India, painted the sufferings of Indian villagers in dark shades, reflecting their predicaments. Her paintings also motivated people to think about a unified India. The national anthem, written by Ravindranath Tagore, also helped to create national consciousness. The tricolor flag was first designed during the time of the Swadeshi movement. The earlier version of the flag contained 8 lotuses representing 8 provinces in British India and a crescent representing Hindu-Muslim fraternity. The team led by Gandhiji designed the national flag with charka, a domestic cotton spinning wheel used in Indian villages. Charka resembled the self-dependence of Indians and their defiance to colonial rule. National emblem, patriotic songs, symbols and pictures were used throughout our freedom struggle. Additional questions. Prepare an essay on the factors that contributed to the emergence of Indian nationalism. Social reform movements, newspaper, education, literature, art. ഈ പറഞ്ഞിരിക്കുന്നതിൽ മുകളിൽ എക്സ്പ്ലെയിൻ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്, അതെഴുതുക. Indian nationalism was a form of protest against the descent to the British colonialism. Substantiate. As a nation, unity in diversity is the solid foundation of India. Several factors contributed to the foundation of Indian nationalism. One among them was the protest against and descent to the British colonialism. The radical changes in social and cultural spheres helped to cherish nationalism among the people. There were several factors which helped this. Socio-cultural activities and agitations at various levels positively influenced social life, the press, education, literature, art, etc. The consequent changes in these fields paved the way for national unity in India. English-educated Indians tried to reform Indian society, language, art and literature. It motivated to protest against inequalities and violation of rights and created a sense of unity among the people. Indian leaders mostly depended on newspapers to propagate their nationalistic ideologies. They considered journalism as a social service. Their newspapers criticized the British policies and motivated national movement. During those days, protection, circulation and reading newspapers were considered to be a part of freedom struggle. Establishing national educational institutions was the main means adopted for inculcating nationalism. Writers shared their resentment with the people through poetry, tales, novel, drama, etc. This developed among people a sense of patriotism and dissent towards the foreign dominance. സോഷ്യൽ സയൻസുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട നോട്ടുകൾക്കും വീഡിയോകൾക്കുമായി ചാനൽ സബ്സ്ക്രൈബ് ചെയ്യാൻ മറക്കരുത്.